This is a community art project in Keyport, New Jersey. But it could really be any town at the Jersey Bayshore. For some crazy reason, even after all of the extensive damage done by Hurricane Sandy many years ago, almost all of the towns have legitimized efforts to make their communities better, aesthetically pleasing. Towns just like Keyport place a high value on their own history and the rich and varied stories about the past. They also work hard together to make their town successful by helping local businesses. What you're seeing here in Keyport has repeated itself throughout our area, thanks, of course, to the effective leadership of local governments, the strong influence of local groups representing a variety of community interests, local businesses who take responsibility for doing more than simply providing products or services, and probably most importantly, the people who volunteer to make their communities stronger in every way. From art to business to medical support to picking up trash to folks who just want to lend a hand without being asked to do so.
Coming through. I used enough.
Every town has its heroes, and for the most part, they seem to be unassuming folks who tirelessly volunteer their time, talent, and sometimes their resources to make their communities better. Tom Gallo, while probably not comfortable with being called out as an exceptional volunteer, is just that. And we'll talk to him during our program.
So the float would make that knot.
Idea. Like I'm putting it in on the hair.
Like it seems like things are disconnected, like that side, it's like the ocean and the mermaid. It seem like they don't make sense, but it's actually going to be like ocean, and then like the bay, and then it's going to be like the grasslands with the cranes and the egrets, and then it's going to wrap around and be like so still the bay, and then it's going to be like the garden, like gardens of Keyport, and then the back side of this is going to be night sky, and really cool night sky, and then so the mermaid is like night sky, dreamy mermaid. So that's why, like right now, you're like, what's the mermaid?
No. What is your name?
I'm Grace.
The last name, Grace?
Sharp. I actually have a business, Grace Your Space.
Welcome to Jersey Bayshore Country. This is Tom Gallo, and if you live in Keyport, you know Tom Gallo. Tom, you grew up in Keyport, didn't you?
That's correct, John. I'm third generation. My kids are fourth generation.
Well, what did you like about it growing up?
I like the water, obviously. 2 blocks from the bay, you could go swimming. You could go, play with the horseshoe crabs. There was just something to do, and it always centered around the water. If your friend had a boat, you could go out in a boat. In the 60s, we had limits. I was only allowed so many blocks away from home. You were allowed to walk uptown to go to the movie theater, but it was a straight line and then back home.
Was that the Strand?
That was the Strand
Strand
Theater.
Movie Theater, yeah.
The interesting part was that neighbors were watching you, and that was a good thing.
Sure.
My neighbor used to remind me it was Thursday, we had to put the trash on the curb. But my father knew where I was. Now, he worked in Hightstown. Again, no cell phones, no cameras. Maybe people had a rotary phone. My father knew if I had gone outside my boundary by the time he got home at 5 o'clock.
Now, you must still have boundaries because you're always in this town. I mean, I see you at have you been to every restaurant in town?
Yes.
So you are also a volunteer in the city. You volunteer all the time. Now, here's the thing about Tom. He's very modest, And almost all of these guys are. So I'm going to ask you to speak collectively.
You're going to tell me we're doing
You're
this.
going to speak collectively for all of the people, because I can't have them all on the show, Tom. You know that. And you're fairly well spoken. Talk to me about the importance of volunteers in Keyport. We have a lot of them. We have a lot of people who care, don't we?
We have many people who care. We have new people like yourself who move in and join right in with the caring, as you've obviously done through your films, highlighting the various groups, the Garden Club, Historical Society, First Aid, Fire. I'm going to miss somebody, I know that. But there are a lot of people that are appointed to boards, but none of them are paid, the recreation and whatnot.
Sure.
So all of those things will keep the community tight-knit. They keep us all working together. It's why if you tell someone we're having a beach cleanup, 50 people show up. And they may be people you don't even know, which is possible. There are people in Keyport we don't know, but they show up because they want to be a part of it. Speaking from a economic point of view, the fire, first aid, emergency management, all are unpaid. A lot of towns don't have enough volunteers, and of course have to put that into a tax base somehow to get a paid service.
Sure.
So we're still doing well. We're within response times and limits. We go to all the classes that paid professionals go to. There's no difference for a volunteer first aider than there is for a paid EMT. There's no difference. It's the same course. It's very difficult.
I know that when I was having some difficulty, I had a lung collapse, and I didn't know what to do. I called my doctor. He said, go to the emergency room. And I said, well, that's a little drastic. I'm not going to do that. And I could have been having a heart attack, quite frankly, because I had a pain in my chest. It was hurting. And yet, for some reason, it never crossed my mind that my life was in danger. And so I just sat through the night in pain, excruciating pain, thinking to myself, well, maybe this will go away. Are there a lot of people that are just afraid to pick up the phone and call?
I don't have an assessment of that because we respond to people who called or
Yeah.
someone called for them. And
Well, how often do you get people calling on behalf of somebody else? Because in my case, my daughter actually intervened and called you guys.
yeah. Generally, if someone's living with the person and the person physically can't make the call for whatever reason, they've fallen, they can't get up or something, someone else makes the call. That's frequent.
And you know, it's
We've
funny.
had neighbors call, they check on people. We've had neighbors
Good.
call for somebody.
It's funny, Tom, because I know years ago I used to think to myself, the only reason you'd go to an emergency room if it was Saturday or Sunday and your doctor wasn't available, or if your life was in serious danger. And today, going to the emergency room at a local hospital seems to be the easiest way to get in, quite frankly. Do you? How often do you make runs? I mean, how often are you shuttling people to the hospital, do you think?
Well, we make over 1,300 a year. That's the Keyport First Aid. We make over 1,300 calls a year. Some of those are out of town because we have what we call a mutual aid system, which is very beneficial because if during the day we were short an EMT, somebody from another town might come. But more often than not, Keyport covers. But it's about 1,300.
You must get I don't know, sort of an indescribable feeling when you're confronted with someone who's having a serious medical emergency. It must be challenging. How do you mentally, emotionally stay kind of tuned and focused so you can help this person?
I believe the answer to that is in the teamwork. I'm not an EMT. I'm a driver. I support the EMT. I can go get equipment. I can help lift. If we have to put someone on a backboard for reasons, I can assist in doing that. The answer just comes in with following the lead person, which is generally an EMT. If it's really bad, we have to get a paramedic if it's a really bad situation. And if that person is methodically moving, going through all the proper procedure, and not getting hyper, then the team tends to, it's just like a captain on a basketball team. He lets you know when you got to drive the ball, and he lets you know when we're just going to move nice and slow with this. If you follow that, you're okay.
I tell you,
Your first couple of calls, there's no question. If it's a bump or a bruise, if it's a bone protruding and you've never seen that in your life,
I can't imagine. I sat in my living room and these guys came in there must have been 6 of them, plus a police officer, because you work in tandem with the police
We
department.
work with the police and we work with the fire department for what we call first responders.
So you talk about that teamwork with the police and the first responders and any other organizations that you might work with. What is that like?
Well, some of the previous interview you've done with our police chief and our chief of the first aid, Kenny Crowley, and our OEM team, it's an ABCD type of a thing. People call, like you should have.
Yep.
Sorry about that on tape. And to make it clear, you can always do 911, but if you know your own local police, that's the best number to call. If you know it, don't waste time looking for it. Dial 911 if you don't know it. But there's always a couple of seconds, as the police chief described, between the county getting the 911 call and then transferring that information verbally to our dispatcher, who verbally transfers it to a policeman and then puts a page out for us. Call your local police, give the best description you can. 50-some-year-old man, chest pain, hit his head. Give all the description you can. The police will come first. They're very well trained. They carry oxygen. And they are calling, giving us assessment as we're putting our crew together and coming. So we have an idea before we even walk in your door what we need to bring. And again, if it's an escalation, paramedics are called. There are certain calls that automatically trigger. If there's any kind of head trauma or something, the dispatcher will call paramedics. Our job is to stabilize your vitals, get you on a stretcher if we can, or if we have to wait for paramedics. Or sometimes we meet the paramedics depending on where they're at. If you're real bad, we call the hospital ahead of time and say we're coming in with a patient with this, this, and this. They're ready for us.
When did the first aid squad sort of generally come into being?
Well, we formed as an independent in 1927, but we were originally part of the Keyport Fire Department, just working in tandem together.
And there are first aid squads up and down the Jersey Bayshore. Do you guys communicate best practices? Do you talk a little bit, or do you compete?
No, there's a district council which allows you to talk with the first aid in our district, and the meetings sometimes. Well, we just had one at first aid. They rotate them around, and best practice, absolutely.
How crazy was Hurricane Sandy for you guys? Was there a lot of calls? If people could even call.
Well, no.
That was the
there
problem.
There weren't
right?
a lot of calls because there couldn't at first.
Oh my gosh.
Some forms of communication stayed in, like I think I recall being able to text, but not use the phone. But no, Sandy caused a lot more havoc worse for other towns like Union Beach, where people were stuck on their roofs as the surge came in. Oh. We had some issues on First Street, the lower end of First Street by Beach Park, as you know. Fire, first aid, OEM, again, working together. Boats, getting people out, pulling them in. We did create the shelter at the high school, at the central school. We had roughly as low as 250 to I think about 340 as people came and went overnight, needed food, kept them warm. We did have medical supplies. We had volunteer nurses. It was a small city. How hectic? We had one serious incident that comes to mind. A woman on 2nd Street went to move her car up, out of and on her way back, a large tree, which had bad roots anyway, fell over and fell on her. Oh. The fire department, amazingly, was able to take chainsaws, protect her, cut what they could off of her, and get her to the hospital. She's fine. She's back walking. She's
hallelujah.
She's happy as can be. And,
good.
I believe that was the most serious injury per se. Everybody else was just shaken. No power, no food. If you're on oxygen, you need refills. I think those things, but I don't believe anything as serious as Union Beach had, where rescues were neck deep in water.
Now, I also see you at town council meetings and business meetings of the local businesses here, and you're a great supporter. You're also involved in something that you recently took on, a campaign to what? To reduce or clean up, or talk about that.
It's a litter program.
Yeah.
It's It's run by the state. It's called New Jersey Clean Communities. The funding actually comes from the plastic bottle users and manufacturers, since that's what most of the litter actually is, your fast foods. And each town is prorated X amount of dollars for the amount of roads you have by miles. Public knowledge, Keyport got $15,000 this year, and we are allowed to hire workers to just pick up litter. Simple program.
Sure.
Right now, we just got restarted with the program. They're on foot. They take a different route every day. They clean to stop with storm drains to keep that stuff out of the ecosystem.
And are you surprised or not surprised at the amount of litter that you're collecting? Is there a lot, or is it not so bad?
It isn't a lot in volume, but if you're aware of it, well, how many people have seen, I'll just take a big soda cup or something on a curb for 4 days and wonder why someone didn't just pick the thing up? Well, we now have someone that does that. 6-day-a-week program, 3 hours, and basically has made a major difference.
It was amazing. What do you think is the most interesting thing that has ever happened to Keyport?
It's well known that once all the major highways were built, the parkways and 35, you used to have to drive through Keyport and the Bayshore to get anywhere. And then in 1926, they built what was called the Keyport Bypass. And that was basically where the overpass is by Town and Country.
Yes.
To the spiral where the parkway and all the auto dealers are. And it was called Keyport Bypass on the blueprints. I was just studying this up. Not that I knew John was going to ask.
Yeah.
So maybe from that perspective, that began a decline because you no longer had to go through downtown Keyport, even if you were just trying to get to the shore. Your malls on the highways all started, which drew away from the mom and pops and the J.J. Newberry's and the Frenchie's meat markets, because you could pull right in a great big parking lot. You could buy some clothes, some of your cosmetic and your toiletries, go get your chopped meat, and go bowl all in one shot.
Yeah.
So the malls really kind of hurt the downtown businesses. So from a major impact, I'm going to tell you, I think the major roads that bypassed all of the shore towns.
Yes.
Now, the reverse of it is, with the economy or whatever reason, the mom and pop, there are plenty of towns that wish they had a town center like Keyport. I mean, Middletown has tried for years to develop a town center. And,
well, Middletown, you know what Middletown's town center was at one time.
Yeah, where the clown is.
No, Matawan. Matawan was the downtown section of Middletown until Matawan said, we're becoming our own borough, our own town. But that was it. That was the business section.
Yeah, so maybe the highway's being built, and then, again, what I think is dramatic is that when the waterfront got done, to what we see today, I think that just spurred people to want more to happen. And I believe we're well on our way. I mean, I'm sure that people could argue with me one way or another, not much is happening. But if you see that piece of paper on the street and it bothers you for 4 days and you do something about it, you become part of where we started this conversation. I want to do something. I want to be in the garden club. I want to be in the historical society. I want to help with recreation. I want to do something.
Sure. What do you hope for the future of Keyport? I know you're not a politician or anything like that, but there are some things that can be improved, surely, and there are things that you might think about.
I can answer that because it comes up often. And as John stated, I don't believe any volunteer group is looking for recognition, plaques, or thank yous. You do it because you want to. Mm-hmm. But a lot does get done in Keyport to keep it clean, keep it looking nice. This is in addition to all of the other things like, your DPW, your property maintenance codes, those kind of things that, keep a town to a certain level. More volunteers, particularly new people moving in, who may not know that all these opportunities exist. The continuation of volunteers is going to be critical. None of us would want to have to pay for what happens with the volunteers, whether it's the summer recreation camp that the recreation group has on now. It gives the young kids something to do during the day. In the summers, again, your fire department, your first aid, your emergency management groups. We have great auxiliary group with the first aid. I mean, they're just dynamic group.
Sure.
And they're males and females, you know. Fire companies have auxiliary groups. So even if you don't want to be that fire person or you don't want to jump in the rig and, you know, see somebody in ill, there's 100 ways to support what else goes on. And in a non-political environment, I should add that in, because there are people that just don't want that aspect of it.
What are some of the jobs that people could do? They could answer phones, they could drive a car. What are some of the things that you're looking for?
Well, everybody's looking for everything. The Historical Society, you know, comes to mind because we're in the process of trying to purchase a new home with a grant. Everybody knows we lost our museum. That was one of the major calamities, unfortunately. Easiest thing to go is go on Keyport online and just click down all of the different icons, whether it's, you know, departments or volunteer groups, and you can contact each group there and find out some more about what you might want to do. And the easiest thing to do is just call up and say, you know, I don't want to go up on the 100-foot fire ladder and fight the fire, but I'll be glad to help in some other aspect.
I have great respect for the volunteers of the Jersey Bayshore. Tom is one of them. He's very modest. He's very busy. Trying to get him to sit down for an interview is always tough because he's always on the go. But I sure do appreciate you coming by.
Let me turn the table at the end of this. You've been here almost a year?
No.
6 months?
I moved here in October.
October? What do you see in Keyport? What do you feel we're doing right or could do better?
I don't have to answer these questions.
He's just like David Frost used to be. We're out of time, folks. We got to go.
I think the volunteer efforts are important. I'm not going to touch that because you expressed that very well. I think helping businesses here is important. I think the waterfront continues to be important. I think the way the waterfront looks, and I think Keyport's sensitive to that, to beautification and making sure that people feel comfortable and safe. I like this town because it's conveniently located to everything. You can jump on the Beltway. You can jump on the Parkway. You can, go down 35. There's all kinds of shopping, and you can go to Red Bank. You've got antiques right here. You've got 4 or 5 different stores that collectively have a lot of interesting antiques. You've got more than 20 restaurants here in Keyport, and so I don't know if we suck it in. Delicious food, all kinds of nationalities, and you've got a rich history here. It's a perfect, and you can jump in a boat and go anywhere. You can. The other day, I went up the Raritan River. I've been up the Arthur Kill. You can scoot over to 10 minutes. You can be over at Staten Island. You can go to any number of places. Great kills.
Take the boat or the train to the baseball games.
Or
MetLife.
Exactly. It's all here. So Keyport is like we used to say in Highlands, is undiscovered territory for a lot of people. And once people come here and they look around and they say, my gosh, I had no idea. And you know what I really like is that people in Keyport, now that you started me, darn you, people care about their homes. There are some very old, beautiful homes. They're painted exquisitely. The landscaping is that's why I had the landscape. I was guilted into doing something, and you can drive down all the different neighborhoods. They're all different. They all have different characters and stuff like that. And I also like the fact that the Henry Hudson Trail runs right through us. And so, one of the things I would encourage you, if you're not from this area, ride your bike to Keyport. And as you get off the trail, come and have lunch and spend some time on the promenade. Tom, thanks so much for coming by. I appreciate it. You now are the winner of the most times that a guest has been on this program.
Well, thank you for that.
I have no award though. Here, hand me that thing. I'm not going to give this to you because I like it, but I'll pretend I am. Congratulations.
Thank you, John.
Well, that's another episode of Jersey Bayshore Country. I hope you'll stay tuned. Next week, brand new episode, brand new subject, all about things to do, things to see. Whether you work, play, or live here, this is the Jersey Bayshore. I call it Jersey Bayshore Country. Bye-bye, everybody.